ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to
Cole Weaver. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Carl Weber Show, brought to you by Cape Conscious Media. Great special honored guests today in the studio. As you know, on the show, we cover everything from the arts we had Oscar Peterson on with Lana Krauser, the music industry, acting industry, comedy industry, and so much more. Today, our special guests are Earl Hendricks and Norman Lesley. Welcome, guys.
Thank you
very much for having us.
Great having you guys here. So, guys, we got something brewing. Something's happening on the 5th of May at the Wave Theatre. It's the debut show, the debut film that you guys are working on, Lost Hope. Am I right?
Yes, it's our passion project that took almost 5 years from the first conversation that we had on Facebook Messenger to finally shooting it the last 6 months of 2023. And we shot it like a Friday here, a Saturday there over the 6 months because most of the cast, all of the cast, we are all actors, but most of them, I think I'm the only one that is a full-time actor. The rest all, they act, but they also have families and they've got 9-to-5 jobs. So it was, that's why it took us 6 months to film, a 20-something minute project. Because people have so many other responsibilities, so we tried to do it where we could.
And there was no budget.
And there was no budget, which plays a huge role.
So I know you guys shot it. You shot on an iPhone 13 with no budget. We're going to get into that later on. I obviously want to get into the background of the movie itself, and then obviously it stems from your own backgrounds. So we've got writer, director, producer, co-producer. We've got everything in two people sitting here today. Right? So you guys put this thing together. It's based on true life events.
It's based on a true story. It's based on my childhood experiences with sexual violence, being a child victim of sexual abuse, of rape. And then as a result of that, growing up, that trauma led to mental health issues. It led to suicide attempts. But this story is not just about pain. It's also about, and that's why it's called Lost Hope. It's also about hope, and it's about love and the power of love and the bonds of family, of brotherhood, and how that.
Okay. Well,
how that can change your life and literally save your life.
So it's basically the story of so many people in our communities. The write-up says it's a dramatic and emotional portrayal of family, trauma, and hope, a story of two estranged brothers, Daryl and Nigel, and the history of abuse and how it impacts their lives. Earl Hendricks, you play the part of Darren. That's the younger brother.
The older brother.
And then Norman, you are Nigel.
I'm Nigel, that's correct.
Not Nigel Pierce, but
Nigel.
All right, cool. So guys, I mean, let's start at the beginning. You guys are both actors, right? Been in the industry for a while. And just that in its own, being an actor in South Africa is tough. It's tough. Just making ends meet and all of those kind of things. Right? And that brings us to the point of the budget of this movie. There was no budget.
No budget. Not even low budget. No budget.
None at all.
Do you guys have to buy a lot of data and stuff?
Thank God for Wi-Fi.
Yeah, Wi-Fi helped a lot. I must say though, on the point of we're all actors, I tried acting for a very brief period. And I couldn't, it's just the amount of the layover time that you guys go through where there's actually, we were talking about earlier on, where there's no income coming in, we're waiting in limbo, not being sure if you're going to make it or not. I just felt it wasn't for me. That is for me very stressful. So I definitely take my hat off to actors in South Africa specifically. But yeah, no, I tried acting. I can act, but I decided that filmmaking is more for me, and essentially we're trying to build our own table.
I've recently started acting as well. So I'm a stand-up comedian. Recently started acting. It's tough. Once I started doing it, I realized how much goes into it and how truthful it has to be. It's the illusion of truth, basically, you know. So, Earl, I know you were born in Mitchell's Plain.
Yes.
Moved to Retreat.
Moved to Retreat when I started, a year before I started primary school. So I think that was 1987. I started primary school, St. Mary's Primary School in Retreat, 1988.
Yep.
Grew up in Retreat, and at a point in my teens, I think I was 15, my family suffered a huge loss and we lost our home. And I was basically homeless for a couple of years. Yep. And then we lived here, we lived there, on this auntie's couch, on that uncle's couch. And so in that time period, I lived all over the Cape Flats. Lavendale, Seawinds, you name it. I lived
And I mean,
there.
Seawind's part of Lavendale, right next to it. It's a tough suburb to be living in.
It was, and then me being this lighty from the suburbs of Retreat, living in Lavendale now, and at the time I didn't speak a word of Afrikaans, and I had gelled spiky hair.
Yeah.
So I remember at one point I couldn't go to school for 2 weeks because there was people, there was some gang, I can't remember the name, but they all had like gelled spiky hair. So I was living in a section of an opposing gang, and I couldn't go to school for 2 weeks because I was being targeted because they thought I was part of, because of the way that I looked. And I'm like thinking in my head, I can't even fight. Like, how do y'all think I'm part of a gang?
So that was it's an old saying in Cape Town, like, I think it was in the early 2000s, people, there was this group of guys. It wasn't a gang. It was just
Purdy boys or something.
Yes, but they weren't a gang. It was just a group of guys that had the same look. They called them Spikes, Nikes, and VTech. all had that look, right? And then, Norman, you from Kraaifontein, Belleville.
From Brackenfell.
So a lot of people see it as we in the south, Kraaifontein, Brackenfell, Belleville. It's all the same place to us.
They take it very personally. You will not confuse the area codes.
So born and bred.
Yeah, we moved to Brackenfell in '94, I think it was, and there I was brought up. So totally polar opposite from Earl. I think my main traveling around came post after school when I actually decided to go into film, and I moved to town central on my own. But my parents were quite set on keeping us in one place.
So 1994, just as soon as the gates opened from apartheid.
Exactly, said yes.
Ons trek Brackenfell toe.
Koos gaan as geluk.
And I mean, so getting back to the movie itself, it's a short film. Earl, you've gone behind the cameras this time. How do you find acting versus going behind camera, producer, directing, all those kind of things?
So I didn't direct at all.
Just Norman directed.
So Norman was the director, but I was co-producer, and it's the first time in my life that I've ever taken on that role in any project. Never mind my own project with no budget. Even if we had an amazing budget and it wasn't my story, my personal story, I would have still found it extremely challenging. I've always known that side of the camera, the producing side of it is very difficult. But once I got a taste of it, the past year or so, I realized that, there's things that I'm good at and that I love, which is acting. And there's things that I'm not good at, and that's okay. And I've tried it. But I have so much respect for people who do that. The utmost, I've always had respect for them, but after experiencing it, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But then you add to that the fact that I'm telling my story, my lived experiences, and that of other men in my life that I've incorporated into the story. So there's the emotional element of it as well. Yep. So like, for example, with every email that I would send to the cast, or every piece of marketing that we are doing, even just setting up the different screenings and stuff, at the forefront of my mind is what I went through as a child. Yeah. But on the whole, it's been such a rewarding experience, as challenging as it was. When we finished the film November, December, and I remember waking up. So the last scene that we shot, when he called cut, I burst into tears. It was this flood of relief and emotion that's been building up my whole life, but particularly the past 5 years, particularly the past 6 months. And I remember waking up the next day and I just felt the lightest that I've ever felt in my entire life. So it's been more healing than anything.
So Norman, I mean, as director, you needed to know his story intimately.
Yeah.
And that is not something you just divulge to a stranger. So you guys are, besides this project, you guys are friends in general.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
And let me tell you something, like from a guy's point of view, we don't share trauma easily with our friends as guys. So for him to do that, and for you to sit there and listen to it, it takes a big man to do that, first of all, a big heart, and obviously an open mind, right? So how did you take all of that in when he was telling you this is the movie I want to do? Was it a little too deep for you? Do you have any experiences in abuse in that in that world?
I think, well, I can't generalize to that degree, but coming from a colored background, to a degree, we all come from there is always trauma, alcohol, or some degree in our lives. So there was definitely instances I could draw from. But one of the main things that I try to live by is equip yourself with friends who can actually uplift you.
Sure.
There should be a reason why the friend is there. And I felt we have passions that could work together and can get a mutual goal. And that was really the main thing from day one, thinking how are we going to drive together? How are we going to work together towards our common goals?
Okay, so tell me, guys, without giving away too much of the movie, Daryl and Nigel, estranged brothers, both with this growing up in this very dysfunctional home, I take it. Can you give me their relationship?
So the way we wrote it, I don't have a younger brother.
Okay.
I've got an older brother in real life, but I'm the only one of my siblings that has gone through this. But what we wanted to show is how, because I've seen it in other people, in other families, where two siblings go through, they have the same upbringing, whether good or bad, and they go through the exact same thing. But here's the thing about trauma. It affects people in polar opposite ways. So with my younger brother in the film, his trauma manifests physically. So you can see it from, you walk past him in the street, you can see it's a sirechi.
Yeah.
Whereas with my character, which has been my lived experiences in my teens and even up until my 30s, you can't see it because from the outside looking in, this guy looks like he's got his life together. He looks successful, beautiful home, everything's amazing, but he deals with his demons behind closed doors. But it's equally dangerous.
Yeah. So you guys are telling a story that is so, it resonates so much in our communities, especially in the colored community. There's a lot of alcohol abuse. There's a lot of drug abuse, a lot of child abuse. And I mean, so one aspect that I want to touch on is they say that gangsterism is born from poverty. But the same can't be said for drug abuse. Because across all spectrums, no matter what class you are,
trauma is the gateway.
Trauma is the gateway. So whether you come from a rich home or poor home, it is there.
Because it's about numbing people. One of the main reasons why people do drugs is because they want anything that's going to numb the pain, even if it's for 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 5 hours. The problem is still going to be there, because you see, when you live with certain kinds of pain, that every day it's a battle to just get through the day. You will do almost anything to just have a little bit of a break from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not an excuse, rather an understanding of why.
Yeah. So people who don't have the experience with drugs and dealing with they just like, yeah, you're smoking weed again, you're doing this again. But I always say there's a reason for that. And that's what you were saying. That's what you're talking about. That little bit of, just a little bit of break, that where your mind goes numb, where you just don't have to think about what you're going through. And to all of us, to a degree, we, especially after COVID, we lost so much. We lost so much, and people turned to every kind of relief that they could think of. Normally in your life, were there ever instances where you felt, not gone to that extent, but were there traumatic experiences in your life that you brought to this film?
Oh yeah, times of uncertainty, not knowing what the future holds. Is what you're doing really worth it? Is it going to pay off? Because there's a lot of sacrifices you have to make at the end of the day. So yeah, I think definitely a lot of emotion went into the film. Not necessarily direct experiences, but indirect experiences. Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely drew from it.
Yeah. So, Earl, I mean, I know you've gone through a lot in your life, right? Child abuse, sexual abuse, that is brought to the forefront in this film, right? And how did you, because it's triggering and healing at the same time, but you have to put yourself through the fire to get out on the other side.
True.
How did you
You
do
have
that?
to face your demons.
You have to face it. And even though you've been through therapy, every time you take on these demons, it's triggering. You go through it all over
And that's
again.
why the healing process, it's not a linear process.
Yep.
It's not you follow step 1 till step 10 and then you are done. Healing is from childhood trauma, particularly from sexual violence, it's a lifelong process.
But on that point, also to add, I think facing your demons head on is one of the main things.
It's very empowering.
With this project, also, I think to the earlier days, there was a couple of drafts I had that was a bit sketchy because there's so much that we're tackling in the movie. It's mental health, it's alcoholism, it's drugs, and one of the topics is also sexuality. Because Daryl's character is sexually abused as a child. It's something that comes up later on as an adult about his sexuality, his confusion about it. So there was a couple of suggestions I had, and it was very quickly dismissed. And then one of the suggestions I had foreseen is actually in it, a bit of a spoiler, is where 2 male characters kiss. And I was like, nah, man, I don't know about this. Let me first think about this a bit. Yeah. And then after about 2 months, I think we actually could sit back and see the bigger picture of how it falls into everything, portraying the truth. You said, let's go for it. Yeah.
It was a little bit longer than 2 months. Because so there was about 3 or 4 times that we were going to shoot this film in the past 4 years. Lockdown happened, cost changes, blah, blah, blah. But when he came up with that one storyline, which is so pivotal to the film, and again, it's based on truth, I was at a point in my life, I think this was 3 years ago, where I still wasn't 100% okay with who I am. But once I made peace with myself and I accepted everything about myself, I said to him, you know what, let's do it, because that is the truth. Yeah. That is these things actually happen, and if I'm gonna tell the story, I'm gonna do it properly, and I'm gonna be 100% as honest to what I've been through in life as possible, because there's a lot of people out there that can relate, and that's why this film is so important, because nobody's ever done a film like this with all these different layers, because it's not just the one thing. There's like 6-7 different important things that we don't speak about in our colored communities, because we shove things under the carpet, and we definitely don't speak about it from a colored male's perspective.
So who would you like to go and see this movie? Who does it speak to? Who is your target market? Anyone who's gone through pain? Anyone who's looking for hope? Anyone who thinks hope is lost?
It's everyone. Everyone in the colored community should go and watch it, because if there's so you see this guy go through a range of emotions and experiences over the course of one day, but it speaks to how people go through those same emotions of deciding, should I end my life? So this plays out over the course of 24, not even 24 hours, over one day. But it's actually a small snapshot of what a lot of men go through over a couple of months, over a couple of years, where they battle with this. I'm in pain, I can't talk to anybody, and then they kill themselves, or they try to. So if there's any guy that goes and sits there and he watches it and he sees this progression of my character and where he ends up in the film, and he realizes, if I don't speak up, this could be my reality. Sure. If there's a girlfriend that sees her boyfriend's behavior reflected in my character, if there's an auntie, if there's a father that sees his son, or a parent that sees their son going through these emotions, and they then go home and they sit down and they say to that person, are you okay? Let's talk, I'm here. And that person opens up and decides to not go down that road, then our job is done, and then my pain would have not been in vain. Then my pain would have had a purpose.
But I also think, sorry, before you,
Go ahead.
it's also important to note that there's also a lot of comedic relief in the movie. So it's not one tone the whole time of sadness.
There's a couple of jokes thrown in there.
And it was actually that we had one scene for industry execs. It was like a test screening actually, which was very popular. It went very well. And to see the response we got in the cinema from the people for the comedic relief, which we weren't actually banking for, that was really cool. That was quite inspiring.
So that's good to know. I mean, we do need to address these things in our community. But in our community, as in the film, there's a range of emotion. There's anger in our community. There's addiction in our community. There's sadness, there's tragedy. But there's so much comedy as well. And the fact that you guys managed to bring that into such a, I wouldn't say serious, but a thought-provoking movie, right? So who's the funny guy here?
I'm not the funny guy. But I love laughing. Yep. Humor has always been a defense mechanism, but it's also been medicine for me. There are people, like, I will post something on Facebook and people laugh, and I'm like, I'm literally just saying how I feel about something. I wasn't making a joke. I don't consider myself funny, but I felt it was important that, or we felt it was important to, because this is a snapshot of real life, and real life, it's not always darkness and heaviness, sure, but it's not always also everything's amazing and everything's something to laugh at. Yeah. It's a balance. Yeah. So this film has a good balance, I feel.
That is how we've dealt with, especially colored people. We've dealt with trauma in our lives through humor, you know. Mm. And I know for a fact, Norman, that this man gets annoyed at thinly sliced sandwiches. Thinly sliced sandwiches annoys this man to no end.
It grates my soul. It's so unnecessary. Like, that's the kind of thing I get. I don't get angry about a lot of things, but that sort of thing.
It would annoy me too, because I'm a big guy. And if you're gonna cut a sandwich if you're gonna slice it that thin,
like paper thin, menorah blade thin.
Yeah. So I kind of looked at those kind of things, and then tell me, you guys are telling a very personal story, right? How did your families feel about? How did they feel about that? Because I mean, that is like, especially in the old colored community, you don't show weakness. You can't even ons embarrass.
I need to breathe before I answer that. There's been a lot of support on the most part, but there's been backlash as well.
Yep.
Within my own family. Someone very, very close to me, and it's this person's feedback to me was, why are you doing this? What are my neighbors going to say about me?
Yeah.
Because this person still lives where these things happen, where I grew up. And my response was, it's very telling and it's interesting that you are centering yourself in my pain when you've never walked a day in my shoes, and for your concern to be about how people are going to look at you based on what happened to me because of my truth, when instead your focus should be, how did this person that is so close to me, my blood, how did they survive all these years with that pain? And as heartbreaking as that was, it cemented the fact that I did the right thing by telling the story, by making this film, because this is the reality and the truth of that backlash is what so many others face on the daily, and this is why people don't speak up. Men, women, children, this is why they don't speak up. This is why people suffer in silence, because within your own family, you get this pushback. Instead of supporting them, you're worried about what the neighbors are going to think. It's one of the most disappointing and hurtful things that can happen. And then I also got told I'm looking for attention by telling my story. And that's another thing, that the common thing that gets thrown at people. Now imagine you've lived your life with this pain and you finally find the courage to speak up, and that's what gets thrown your way. And that is gaslighting at its finest, and that is how people get silenced.
So that's the thing that we have in our communities, in our families. There's this pride. We're very proud people. Never let them see you fall. Never let them see you cry. Never let them. Now, I remember my dad telling me. My dad was a staunch man, very proud man. We struggled in our younger lives, earlier lives, and I remember him saying, "Little cowboys don't cry," and that is a toxic phrase. It's a toxic phrase, because all my life I realized I mustn't cry. I'm a man. I was 6 years old. I'm a man. Because you have money, I was a 6-year-old boy, and that is so indicative of our culture and how we were raised, right? And you guys are taking it to screens now and telling people it's not the way it should be, you know. Norman, your family life, how? I mean, tell me about growing up in the Lesley household.
My dad is very business orientated, so he had a printing company in the earlier years. Always entrepreneur. My sister, I have an older sister as well, so it's always been neck and neck. Who's going to be the business Mongol between the two of us? But that is just very plain. I grew up in Afrikaans community, so my Afrikaans is baie goed. Ek kan baie tweetalig. I was a writer on Arendsvlei for the first season as well. It's actually my growing up it was very stable, very boring, so to say.
So now being exposed to this, I mean, it's two different worlds coming together and creating a masterpiece. Earl, you've been through the ringer, bruh. Brings me to mental health, men's mental health, because the older generation, men don't cry. Cowboys don't cry. You suck it up. And I mean, after COVID, I've seen so many of my male friends go through that mental breakdown. How important is it for men to speak up? Because they feel embarrassed as well. You know, they're being seen as less of a man.
That part man. Right there.
So that's what society dictates.
So look, you've also got to understand why a lot of men don't speak up. Because aside from just it being so taboo, you look at places like where I grew up, like Lavendale, for example. You as a colored man, you living in Lavendale or Manenberg, and you speak up and say that these things happen to you. You show emotion. It's taken as a sign of weakness, and that can literally and physically be life-threatening because of the toxic masculinity that thrives in your community. So you become a target. But it's important to speak up, because repressing all of those emotions it's a ticking time bomb, and you are either going to hurt yourself, like a couple of the men in my life, childhood friends, high school friends, one of my cousins. And they were all in their 20s when they ended up committing suicide. So you're either going to hurt yourself, or you're going to take out your pain, your anger, frustration on other people. And that's why a lot of these alpha males these hardcore gangsters on the Cape Flats, a lot of them have gone through the same thing that I've gone through. And so their violence, and I'm not excusing their violence at all, but rather this is an understanding of why they are so violent, because they repress all of that. And so they take out their pain on other people, and in a weird way, the way that they hurt and destroy other people's lives it's because there's inside of them, there's a little child, there's a little boy that is trying to take his power back. So I feel that if we can start by educating from as young as possible, educating our little boys that it's okay to cry, it's okay to speak up, I feel like the next generation will be a little bit less violent. I don't have any degrees in the subject. In these topics, I just have my lived experiences, but I strongly believe that the more we allow little boys to just be human and to feel, the next generation, we won't have as many of these violent problems.
So they say through dialogue comes resolution. So if no one's speaking about it, no one can heal.
Exactly.
So we need to break the cycle of abuse, break the cycle of violence. And then, so you get toxic masculinity, and then you get masculinity, which is a provider, a man that knows his feelings, he knows who he is, he can share with his wife, share with his family what he's going through, and that's what we need to do.
That's the goal.
And then hope is not lost.
Exactly. Because it takes, and what people don't realize, our automatic knee-jerk response to when a man is opening up is that this bra is weak. But it takes so much strength to be vulnerable.
To do that.
It takes a hell of a lot of strength.
Absolutely.
But that's where we can also need to speed up the situation. We start the conversation.
Yeah.
We get the guys to say, I know that person from my auntie or my uncle or my cousin. That's where we come in.
And this film is also about representation. And representation is so important because if people can now see, people watch this film and they see the story play out and they see these kinds of conversations, and they sit back and they're like, you know what? This is giving me the courage to open up to my brother, to my mother, to my wife, to my girlfriend, and every little bit helps. So we are trying to do our bit to change the narrative in our own small way, and hopefully we are doing that.
On track? Yeah. Hopefully we're on track.
Hopefully we're on track.
So the thing is, so we need to, so in the colored community, therapy was never an option for us.
Yeah.
We don't go to see a psychologist. We never used to do that. You suck it up and you do what you must do as a man, right? So now we're breaking those stereotypes. And with this movie, you guys are breaking those stereotypes. We're starting a new generation now where we're telling our sons and our daughters, we're teaching our daughters what kind of man she should be looking for through us. And we're teaching our sons what kind of men they should become one day, right? You guys have kids of your own?
No. I don't have any little mini-me stressing me out.
I'm on my peak now. I want to tie myself down now.
So I'm the youngest of four kids, 4 siblings. And between my siblings, my 3 siblings, there's about, I lose count sometimes, there's about 23 or 24 nieces and nephews. And I love them, and I'm obviously the favorite uncle. And so I get a little taste of what it's like to be a dad. But when I get tired, then I'm like, okay, go back to your parents. But one day I want to have kids, but I want to make sure that my emotional bank account and my physical bank account is on a certain level. Also because I know the evil that exists in this world that gets that adults can do to children. That's also why I've been so hesitant to bring life in this world. But I think with all this healing that's happening, I don't know what could happen a year from now, 2 years from now. Who knows what God has planned for me.
But I mean, it's never too late. I mean, and I think that is the message in this movie. It's never too late. If he's got someone sitting there who is who's a drug addict or whatever, it's never too late, right? Hope is not
never too late to change your life.
Never too late, right? And also, I mean, just like never too late to speak up for abuse being thrown towards you.
Even if it happened 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, it's never too late to speak
I
up.
mean, you going through this movie was throwing yourself back in the lion's den.
It was rough.
You living that
Pulling back those scabs, opening those wounds. But it was needed, because sometimes we put a plaster on a stab wound, and that's not enough because it looks like it's okay, but it's busy festering inside. So what this film did for me was, I ripped off that scab, I ripped off that Band-Aid, and I went and over the past couple of years, particularly the last 6 months, I went and deep cleaned that wound.
Yeah. Did you use a little betadine?
Yeah, I did, but it was Aina.
You must. Little Germany, you must do that. So
But
that
a
is,
kettle.
no, guys, I wanted to get into the crux of what this movie is about. And you guys have done that. I want to get into the industry itself now. And the fact that you guys had to do this project with no budget on an iPhone 13. What spurred you on to say, listen, let's just do this. We have what we have. Because, I mean, if you're going to wait around for funding, if you're going to wait around for film crew, production, you're going to wait forever.
True.
Mm-hmm. And there is, there is inspiration in that, what you guys have done. To show young filmmakers, you can do it.
Because there is money out there. Government has money.
Yeah.
The arts and culture department, there is money, there is funding available, but the amount of red tape to get your project off the ground it's insane. And so we decided that you take this.
I think also our main hiccup has been all the time that, okay, fine, I've written the story, we have a script, we have an actor, we have a crew, a cast, but we have no equipment. Post-COVID as well, we always depend on somebody else to do the production part. And then last year, I started a wedding media and mobile DJ company. And I actually got cell phones, the iPhones, as cameras.
Okay.
And to complement that, I imported its cases and lenses. So it's not the clip-on lenses, you actually screw it onto the case. And I'm using that for wedding videos. Okay. So I was like, dude, now when are we doing this video? So I'm like, well, we have the equipment now, let's just do it ourselves. Yep. And then it was challenging because it's a group of, how much will it cost? 5 people?
Yeah.
5 people. Six people. Yep. And now I have to shoot. I have to also help me keep the coordination in line for continuity as well. It was quite a big thing. And
again, things that I've never had to do before.
So there was, and in lighting, we had to add a makeshift lights. We had ring lights. We were just attached over here to this umbrella quickly over here. So it was a fun process. But I mean, I went through college as well, so I had a bit of a background to do this stuff. But that was also one of the biggest parts of doing this project, to show that it can be done if there's a will, there's a way, and we don't have to wait for anybody.
If you want something bad enough, and you have your passion that drives you, like, you're gonna make a way. That's how I've lived my life. So for example, like, I like to use the concept or the fact that I went from homeless to Hollywood in the space of 4 years. So yes, I had a shitty childhood, but the thing is, I've always used the negativity in my life as fuel for this fire to make my other dreams come true. And I've achieved a lot of my childhood dreams some of which I never thought possible. Like, I wanted to go overseas just one time, but I ended up traveling the whole world, and I did it without money. I made a way where I found a job on cruise ships that it took me almost 2 years to get this job, because I got rejected more than once. But I knew that I wanted that job on the cruise ship because that was my ticket to travel the world and get paid for it. And eventually I got it. And the same with other things in my life, because I didn't have a choice back then when I was a kid over what was happening. But best believe I've got a choice now. And for me, my success is to make that little kid happy.
Absolutely. So tell me, guys, how did you decide on the cost? I know Megan
Atkins.
I know her. Way back. But how did you guys decide on the cost? Like, is it just friends? They're all actors, obviously.
Yeah.
So take me through that process, how you guys decided.
So Megan and Lagan Phillips Laws. They were part of the original cast. This is the second time that I've done this film. I shot a version of it in 2018, but the quality was not good, and there was a bunch of other things that didn't work out. So I decided I'm gonna close the door on that, but the story is still going to be told. But I've always had faith in the universe and in God's plan, always, even though I'm not religious. And then after about a year or so, sometime in 2019, the two of us started connecting, and I pitched it to him. He's like, let's do it. And then with his ideas and stuff, the story just kept getting better, and he kept adding more elements. And I was like, I'm so glad that I didn't proceed with that first draft, with that first film. And so I invited the rest of the cast to come on board with this new revised version of the film. But some of them weren't available. Megan and Lagan said, sure, let's do this. And then I was still looking around to see who else could come on board. But organically, the other two cast members, Nadine, Natasha Adams, and Dale Brock, I met them at casting separately, and we just clicked. And I just felt like there's something about this person, because I'd seen them perform in the room. The one was an audition, and the other one was a casting for a TV commercial. But I saw what they were doing. I was like, there's something about this person. And after the audition, after the casting, we chatted outside, pitched it to them, and they were like, I'm in. And that was me just meeting them on that day. And we've become the best of friends since then. And they played their part so amazingly. So it all came together organically.
So tell me, why didn't you phone me to be part of this?
Lost hope part 2.
I lost all hope. When I heard, it's klar.
Look, I've got some other stories that I've written, and I always say this: I'm not a writer. I have respect for writers, but I've got other stories that I've written that could be turned into. The one could be turned into a 4-part. I actually wrote a 4-part miniseries. And the other one is a short film that also could be turned into a feature film. But I see you, and I know you now. So,
thank you very much.
Yeah, if it gets picked up, because I'm not gonna do behind the scenes stuff. With the other stories, it's too stressful. But if there's anyone out there who has the budget and wants to, who has the budget and who loves producing and stuff. Like hit us
absolutely,
up,
guys. If you're out there and you're sitting with resources, we need to tell our stories. Is there? Look, I know it. I haven't even seen the first one, but is there a sequel? Lost hope again.
There's been talks for taking a show to have a theatre show made and have a full-length movie made.
Yeah.
So far,
people have approached us to take this to feature-length film and to turn this into a theatre show, an Afrikaans theatre show, which we are both open to, because we want the story. At the end of the day, it's about the story, and we want as many people to be touched by the story and to see the story and have it affect their lives in a positive way. So we are open to, and so that is those two avenues we are still in the process of exploring, but we are open to almost anything. We are here.
Tell me, will you guys be open to will you guys be submitting this for to film festivals and things like that?
Most definitely. That's the main reason why we aren't broadcasting it on YouTube or somewhere now, because when we do that, we cancel ourselves to some of the competitions. So we're having a couple of screenings now, and then from there, we're just going for the film competitions.
Nice.
But this is definitely not the last project. You're saying now, there's definitely more stuff on the horizon coming. This is just a start.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm looking now and I'm thinking, you guys have got onto something, and I mean, I can just tell it's a passion project. And I believe every project should be a passion project. If it's not coming from the heart, why do it?
Exactly.
I feel both your hearts are in it. It's called Lost Hope. Earl Hendricks and Norman Lesley are the masterminds behind this. It's debuting on the 5th of May at the Wave Theatre in Long Street.
Yes.
I will be awaiting my invite. I will come and support because I love supporting local
Thank
guys.
you so much.
Thank you very
so
much.
Tickets are only 60 Rand.
60 Rand. Yes.
You can go to our Lost Hope page on Facebook, Lost Hope film page. And there's right at the top of the page, the
Pin to
pin
the
post.
top.
And you just click on the link, Catch the Wave website, and secure your tickets before it gets sold out. It's Sunday, 5th of May, and it's at 3. Doors open at 2:30 p.m. The show starts at 3:30 p.m. It's 20 plus minutes. We have a 20-minute Q&A with the cast. Get to know us, ask us questions, and then there's an amazing bar, lounge, cafe area where you can hang out with us and have some cocktails and drinks. Fully stocked bar.
So there you go, guys. Get your tickets. One more time on Facebook, you can find Lost Hope. People follow it, buy your tickets, go support, because it's local, it's from our communities, and it's going to be amazing. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. I really, it was awesome getting to know you guys.
Thank
and
you.
Thank you very
so
much.
excited for the next project because I'm going to.
Most definitely.
Starting role.
Thank you so much for coming on the Carl Weber Show, brought to you by Cape Conscious Media. All the best, guys, in the future and for this endeavor.
Thank you very much.
Much
Thank you very
appreciated.
much,
And
Carl.
thank you guys for your time. Means a lot to us.
Thank you. Goodbye. I'll see you.